Welcome. Good Saturday morning to everyone out there in baseball card or sports card world. This is Hobby Hotline, Saturday Showcase Edition. My name is John Newman, Sports Card Nation, Hobby Quick Hits. My co-host today is Ben Wilson from About the Cards and the Mike Sommer from Wax Pack Hero. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Johnny. It's exciting, right? We're up, we're breathing. It's Saturday. We all collect cards. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, I should be in Atlantic City right now, but as we all know, no such luck there with everything going on in the world. And so, folks, feel free, as we've been around a while now. You know how this works. Feel free to call in. You can see the call-in code is scrolling across the bottom at the moment. This is your show. You dictate where you want it to go. And so if you have anything on your mind, as always, you're welcome to call in. We're going to start off with, we talked about the national, the original date was this week. We kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, barring really a quick turnaround, flattening the curve, a vaccine. It's been rescheduled for the week before Christmas, and now that's up for debate as to whether we're going to even get that one. We can argue the semantics about how it might be. It's kind of a weird week. It starts sort of, not traditionally on the day it would. They got to do the best they can with the schedule they got to work with. But what say you guys? I mean, you think we see a national in AC in December, or you think we're looking at 2021 in Chicago again?
You want to go first, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my answer is going to be boring. The real answer is who knows? My gut says probably not. The way that we're seeing things now, I know the Northeast seems like New York, New Jersey is a little bit better off than they were earlier on, but the rest of the country, or big chunks of the rest of the country, aren't better off than they were before. So I have a hard time. I don't know the specifics of the New Jersey laws and regulations around large gatherings and large conventions and things like that, whether that will even be allowed at that point. There's talk of the vaccines that are currently in trials being ready by November, December. But if people are just starting to be able to get those, is that going to be enough time to make that go? My gut says probably not. I doubt there will be a national. And if there is, I doubt that it will be to the same level of, excitement and attendance and all of those things that we typically see at the national.
If you look at, so the world kind of shut down mid-March. That was 4.5 months ago, basically to today. What's unique about today's date is 4.5 months basically puts us right on the beginning of the new national date in mid to third week of December, right? So if you look at it like an arch, the last 4.5 months was the going up the roller coaster, and then the next 4.5 months is going down. That would be the assumption that today is the peak, and that starting tomorrow we're going down. And I don't think we can definitively say that. We're nowhere near that, I believe. So you look where the world has been in the last 4.5 months. Can we honestly say the next 4.5 months is going to be enough time, as like Mike said, whether it's vaccinations or just enough time to the virus to kill itself off? Whether it's through slowing the spread or it just dies a natural death, we just don't know. But it is very unique that the last 4.5 months do not lead us to believe that the next 4.5 months are going to be any better or any different. So the short answer is probably doesn't happen. But then the bigger question is Chicago 2021. What do we think about that one?
Well,
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. I don't know if you want.
Sure, I'll go ahead and jump in just because I'm from Illinois here and maybe have a little more of a direct line to the way things are going here in Illinois and the way that our approach has been. You know, we got pretty strict with locking things down early on, and that kind of got things under control. Early on, Chicago and the Chicago suburbs were the areas that were hardest hit here in Illinois. The downstate areas weren't as hard hit, but the governor is pretty on the strict side. The city of Chicago itself is pretty on the strict side, even to the point right now where we've got things more stable right now. And the city of Chicago is restricting anyone coming from Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, Indiana, like all of our surrounding states, which are trending upwards. The city of Chicago is not even letting those people come to Chicago theoretically without a 14-day quarantine period, right? And so I don't know what that's gonna be like next summer. I think 6 months out, if this vaccine or any of the vaccines are effective, that'll be plenty of time, a year from now, for those to be in full effect. And there's a high likelihood if those vaccines are effective that we'll be there. If the vaccines aren't effective, then I would doubt it, because Illinois has been pretty strict so far, and I don't see that changing as far as loosening without a significant restriction or cure or vaccine. They've kind of said there's going to be no large concerts, no large conventions or any of that type of stuff in the state until there's a vaccine or essentially a cure, or the virus is gone completely. So I would doubt it unless those things happen. But I think there's a decent chance, based on what we're seeing, that could be in place by next summer.
Yeah, December, my take on it, I think December is a long shot. Like you started out by saying, Mike, who knows? I mean, ultimately, but, if you got to play devil's advocate or armchair guess the convention quarterback, I'm going to say December is going to be tough. I mean, if you follow what's going on, there's been an uptick in certain areas, while here in the Northeast, we're actually trending a little better. Like Ben mentioned, in other areas, they're kind of seeing an increase. So it's hot spots are popping up. And then going into next year in Chicago, I mean, that's a ways off. I got to be honest with you. I hope just not so much for a card show, but just for
the country,
this economy and this country. If the convention gets canceled next year or moved from August from Chicago, we got bigger problems than not being able to go to a week-long card show. And I hope that's not the case. I mean, the economy's sort of taking a little bit of a hit this year, and not, as crazy as it sounds, with all the stimulus packages, we've managed to, I don't know where this money comes from. I don't work in government, but we managed. I think most people, man, I don't want to speak for everyone. I'm sure there's people hurting out there, but a lot of people have come through it fairly well thus far. But the longer this goes on, obviously, the odds go down that you can still do as well. So we'll see. It's crazy.
John, I think you said something that was extremely poignant, in the sense that if we do get this in Atlantic City, or hopefully Chicago 2021, it's self-serving for us as a hobby, because we all want this to take place for our own personal selfish reasons. But it shows that the economy, it shows that the world has reopened back up, and hopefully much better for it. So it's a microcosm, in a vacuum. I mean, the real question is this: with the way that the hobby has developed over the last few years, not do we want a national, but do we even really need one per se, right? Everything can be done virtually. We saw the NFL draft be done virtually, and this is a a must-see TV one-day event that turns into 2 days, that turns into a 4-day weekend now, live from Tennessee and would have been Vegas this year. And, Topps and Panini, they could do a State of the Union, so to speak, virtually with all of us in attendance at home. They could invite certain people on via Zoom to ask questions. I mean, the options are limitless, right? Most everything, and I've not been to a national, but most of this stuff is relatively available to us online in some capacity through auction houses or, just websites like Sportlots, Caskey, and eBay. So I don't think we need one. We just, of course, want one. It's not a necessity. We're not all going to die of, a broken heart tomorrow if we never had another national or local show. So yeah, I mean, if we end up getting one, we should all be thankful because it really is a reflection on where the world has, where it currently sits, whether it be December this year or July next year.
Yep. We have our first caller in. He's been here before. Let's add him to the stream. Mr. James Hummel. Welcome.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Hey,
Good, James.
So in a similar vein, and I know it's, we're a week afterwards, but I just wanted to quickly talk about the Fauci Topps Now card. Because I know you guys were talking about it on the hosts were talking about it on the Monday night show, and I know the Mojo guys were talking about it earlier this week. There was talk about how did it reach 50,000 cards, right? The highest print run for any Topps Now card to date, beat the Vlad debut card, beat any kind of Acuna card. The one kind of piece of speculation that I think everybody missed out on as to why the print run was driven up so high was points. Topps Now reward points. So if for those that are unaware, anytime you buy anything on the Topps website, be it like Living Set or a Throwback Thursday or boxes or anything, more importantly, Project 2020, you earn Topps Now points. Those points can only be redeemed towards Topps Now products, be it baseball, soccer,
Did we lose James?
Oh, he's back.
There he is. Okay.
It's my brother calling me. I'll call him back. So the speculation amongst Topps Now collectors is that all those Project 2020 buyers that had been sitting on probably close to 100,000 points if they were buying big amounts of Project 2020 cards, it was one of the first cards of the season. They went and used those points and bought probably 500, 1,000 of the Fauci cards. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It depends on your point of view. From a Topps Now collector perspective, I think it's maybe a little bit of a good thing because it's bringing attention to the Topps Now line, which in my biased opinion is a good thing because Topps Now I don't think gets the love that it deserves.
Do you know why that is, James?
Why Topps Now doesn't get the love?
Right. Do you know what? This is just my personal opinion. It started in 16, right?
Yeah.
And I've got the entire print run of all of the Oakland A's. But here's the problem, and I bitched about it a lot on Twitter over the last couple of years. There was an A's Astros game last season, and it was a 7-6 ball game. The A's won. Okay, that's a key that the A's won. There were 10 home runs. There were 3 home runs like back to back to back. There was a first home run from one of the A's, first career home run. Yeah. There was it had something to do with the 100th or 10,000th win or something dating back to the Philadelphia A's. I mean, there were like I named like 17 things that Topps Now card could have had.
Yeah.
There was one the following day from that game, and it was Carlos Correa's 100th career home run.
Yep.
I'm like, cool, because a week later, Marcus Semien hit his 100th home run in his career. So I'm like, all right, what's all is fair, right? Yep. Semien finished third in the MVP voting. No card. The problem is inconsistency. Ramon Laureano robs back-to-back home runs in back-to-back games, right? The first one does not get a card. The second one does because Mike Fiers threw a no-hitter in that game, so it saved the no-hitter. And I think the problem is the inconsistency from day to day on what they're choosing.
Absolutely. And Ben, there was actually an A's game. Sorry to interrupt you, but there was actually an A's game last season against the Blue Jays. I don't know if you remember Freddie Galvis's barehanded catch, right?
Yeah,
And
that one upset me a little bit. Yeah,
all my fellow Jays baseball card collectors, we were all over. Oh, they got to do a Topps Now card for it.
Right.
They got to do a Topps Now card for it. You know what it came down to? The who does all the photos for them again? The Getty. Thank you. No one from Getty got the shot. And that's part of the problem. You're right, Ben. Like, they are completely inconsistent with some of the moments they pick. Right? They pick walk-off home runs. Like, if there's 10 walk-off home runs, they're bound to do at least 5, if not 10. Right?
Yeah.
But they are inconsistent, and I've had these conversations with other Topps Now collectors. There is kind of a blame on Getty, because Getty, they either have really crappy photographers in the stadium and aren't paying attention to the game, and so they're not getting the shots that they need because they've got the exclusive contract with Getty to use those photos.
But how does that impact a collector's desire to have a card capturing the moments that are produced? I mean, to me, it's not going to capture everything, but if the cards that they do produce, I'm a fan of that player, I'm a fan of that team, why would that impact my desire to get that card? So I get the inconsistency from somebody like Ben, who's like a mega team collector and wants every card of every moment, captured representing his team. But if I'm just a fan of a certain player, or I thought that was a cool event or a cool moment, I think that's the intention of Topps Now, not necessarily to capture every moment of every game of every sport that they can produce, Topps Now products for. So I don't know. Personally, I think it's more because in general, a lot of the on-demand print-to-order sets are cool to certain people, but they're still, I think, not necessarily viewed as a legitimate product. Which is from a lot of collectors' minds.
Yeah, and which is really funny.
Wrong. I'm just saying, I think in a lot of collectors' minds, these on-demand products, print-to-order products, aren't necessarily viewed as legitimate products.
And which is funny, right? Because the quality of the cards are great. The photos that they choose, in most cases, are really top-notch photos, right? Again, I kind of drag Getty through the mud for having inconsistent photographers, but the photos are fantastic.
So, James, how could you really fault Getty, though, if Topps can't tell you, all right, James, you're my Getty guy, I need you to get any this, and this on camera just in case Galvis makes a great play. Take a shot of him smiling after the play then. Okay, you didn't catch the play, but catch this and say, James, or that Galvis made a fantastic play against the A's last night. There was a follow-up question from Ziggy, great friend of the show. He asked if they hold value. And the road to opening day sets, the players weekend sets typically do, at least on my end, because as an A's fan, they're not. This is the other key with Topps Now. They print Yankees, they print Red Sox, they print Dodgers, they print call-ups, they print Guerrero. For 2017, Aaron Judge, picks his nose if he spit twice in one inning. So Aaron Judge every day or every other day. And
how many Alonso cards did they print last year, right? Like crazy amount, right? Yeah.
And Robert's probably going to be all over it, assuming that we have a full 60-game season. The ones that hold their value, it costs. I missed the 2017 Players Weekend because it was the first year they did it.
Yeah.
And it cost me $150 to go get the 5 cards, $30 a pop. For the point of sale is a little high on those. I think they're usually about $40 a piece for the 5 cards. This year they did an extra card because they were delayed. Or last year, 2017, you got a 6th card and you got a relic. Or I think you might have been able to buy an auto if you wanted a pop for certain teams. But the bottom line is some of this lower print run. So stuff for the A's, the Rays, the Brewers, the Marlins. Again, just not necessarily the day-to-day stuff, but the extra stuff are going to hold a lot of value over time because they're just scarce. Simple supply and demand.
Even the autos, like they print they'll do autos for kind of mid-tier players, let's say, and they definitely don't hold value, and they generally will resell for probably below the original price. But guys like from Jay's perspective, Bichette and Vlad, the resale value has been pretty decent on them. But it's a funny thing. Like Topps Now, they don't. I'm like the overall set, they really don't hold the value, and which I don't know. I guess it's again, it comes back to that whole print on demand.
Yeah.
You know, the people that have bought them, the majority of the people that have bought them during the original 24-hour window, right?
Exactly. Right.
But the Fauci card, to come back to that card, the Fauci card throws all of those theories out the window, right? Because now you can talk about price manipulation, right, with that particular card, because I know that's been thrown around, but that card has been selling for like $100.
Yeah. But
why?
Because here's why. It's a reflection of Project 2020 and the fact that most of that money is coming from non-hobbyists. I had tweeted out the other day, like, come on, people, what are we doing? Seriously, 51,000 for a scientist that most people didn't know who he was before COVID? I mean, it was a small population that could have named him by name, right? And now we all know who he is. So most people kind of came back at me and said, listen, think Project 2020. Most of the people buying this are not me. It's not you. It's not Mikey. It's not Johnny. It's not any of us in the chat. It's none of us, that are up at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning talking cards. It's, our coworkers. They're like, oh, hey, this is a novelty item. And they don't know that spending $100 on this as an aftermarket is cost prohibitive. We do. We know spending $6 tomorrow. I could have had it for $5 yesterday. They're looking at it. And again, their resources and their finances are different. We have all of these on demand. Tops Now's back. So that's going to cut into, our budgets, for at least James and I who are choosing to spend money on it. You got the 3D now, you got et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. September's going to be a dumb month with Allen and Ginter and Stadium Club for baseball card collectors. It's going to be very expensive. So on and so forth. I mean, 51,000 cards. How many of these actually stay in hobby collections?
Yeah.
Probably less than 20%, I would imagine.
Yeah, the Fauci 51,000. I think, James, you hit it on the head. I think a lot of that's people turning in their Tops Now points. I somehow, self-confessional, I'm a huge Fauci's from Brooklyn, so I'm, as you saw, I have the bobblehead. I didn't get a card. I was asleep at the wheel. I got 100,000 something Tops points too, so it would have been a no-brainer. I missed the boat. What you said, they are going for crazy amounts of money on the secondary market at 51,000 print run. As someone who has 20 of the 19K Vlad Jr. debut Tops Now, I'm hoping that, from a selfish point of view, I'm hoping that bumps them up a little bit, because if you're doing the math, the 51,000 is worth that. But like Ben said, like we all kind of said here, is it's a little bit of a cult icon right now in the world, and so people who aren't in the cards are probably buying this card on the secondary market and thinking long term maybe it'll be worth more. Dr. Fauci card, just like the bobblehead. That bobblehead sold out rather quickly too. So it's just the top. What's the new story of the moment, and people want a piece of that, whatever it might be. And I think the prices obviously eventually come down. My advice is if you do have any Fauci cards and you're not, and you want to keep one for yourself, sell them, because there's no way that maintains that price level to me anyway.
The digital copy of the card, right? So the Topps Bunt digital copy of the card. I saw someone share a sale or a sold price on it. It was like $60 for a digital card, right? Like,
I can go right. Digital cards, man. I mean, if I had some time this afternoon, I could get a complete T206 set, right? I just got to go image search and right click. And I love joking about that, saying, hey, I'm going to share my T206 with you, James. Do not go right click on it, because this is my collection, not yours.
Yeah.
Dang it, you have one too now. I don't get the whole
I don't get
whole
it
digital
either.
game. I mean, what happens if that app ever gets unsupported?
Yeah.
You lose your entire collection.
Yeah, I love Bunt, but I will never spend a dime in that app, right? Like, I've got a ton of stuff in there, but I'll never spend a dime. So do you guys
want to do it for free? That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So do you guys think that Topps does a good job of marketing Topps Now? No.
I don't think they do a good job of marketing Tops. Oh, I think they do a better job of marketing Tops now than they do Tops Living.
Yeah.
You know, I think some of the other on-demand sets are their weak point when it comes to a marketing perspective. Project 2020, I think, would have been they had a good plan in place, especially if the baseball season was happening as it was supposed to happen. The integration of Project 2020 into the MLB broadcast, I think, would have been a big benefit, and I think that was smart. Tops Now at least has some Tops Now related inserts into the flagship product and things like that bring more awareness to it. I think there's some of the, dummy promo type cards that get put in packs that talk about Tops Now. They could have done that same thing with the living set, especially in like a heritage type product. Yep. Or Allen and Ginter or Gypsy Queen, any of those vintage retro type products to bring attention to the living set to get it going. But I've seen zero promotion of the living set in any of those other types of products. So I think it's really hit and miss on those on-demand products and their marketing plans for that.
Which is funny too, because living set, their print runs, are far outdo Throwback Thursday sets. They far outdo most Tops Now cards. What do you think they should, outside of what you just said, Mike, what other things do you think they should be doing to promote things like Now or Living Set or even Throwback Thursday sets?
Yeah, in my opinion, and maybe they are doing this and I just don't see it, but I think there are other things that they could be doing that tie to replays of the game, whether that's figuring out pre-roll ads on YouTube or some of the, the sites that are replaying replays. I don't know the full cost to run some of that type of material and if it would be cost justified. I don't have those intricate details, but I think about somehow tying that product to things on Twitter, things on YouTube, things on whatever that are talking about what is happening in some of those big moments and figuring out how to do that from a broad perspective. I don't know if they can incorporate that into some of the bigger overall marketing partnerships that they've got that can, segment that type of stuff out. But those are some initial ideas, again, with the caveat that I don't know the full cost of running all of those ads and if that would be cost justified with the program.
Yeah, but there's an economic principle that I think most of us are familiar with, if not by name, just in general in business, called a marginal cost, right? If I'm selling on average 1,000 Tops Now cards per day, regardless, right? Let's just call it an even number. And it's costing me X amount of dollars to market that on other places I'm not, but I can raise that print run from 1,000 to 1,500. You factor that marginal cost of advertising and marketing into that extra 500, not the initial 1,000 that are going to be bought regardless. So we can just throw you an email once a day. But you throw it into that, what is it going to cost us on if it's going to cost a hard cost of X to get onto these, Facebook ads and stuff like this, how much more is it going to allow us based on a per card revenue? I don't know what they net, but let's assume it's $2. If we can sell an extra 500 cards, that's an extra $1,000. If the Facebook thing costs $500, we're still coming out ahead $500 if you follow the math there. But again, I think the problem with Tops Now in general is that they just we can probably all agree that the A's are a top or bottom 10. If we broke it down into top 10, middle 10, 3 separate tiers. The A's are probably in the bottom 10 as far as collectability and interest goes amongst collectors. So if something happens in tonight's game, A's-Yankees, exactly the same. The odds of the Yankees getting one versus the A's is completely unlikely. And that's frustrating. And it's like almost an anti-marketing because there is no consistency in that program. And I'll be 100% honest to answer your question, James. The problem with Tops right now is their social media presence sucks. Period. Zero. Yeah. When Sue's had it, Tops would respond. They would retweet. They would do box breaks and show you what the new product looks like. They were very active. And whoever's controlling that now, whether we blame it on COVID, because I know Susie hasn't been gone forever, but she's been gone quite a while now. But there's no interaction. Yeah. If I'm Tops, I'm saying, listen, man, especially for this on-demand print stuff where we can make more and we're literally printing money now, living Project 2020. I am throwing a machine behind it. Absolutely, because the more I throw behind it, the more I make on the back end.
Yeah. They seem with their even marketing product wise, Topps seems very, very siloed, right? They've got their online team, they've got their pack box teams, right? There's no, to use a really badly used word, there's no synergy within their product lines to, okay, sure, they're throwing the Topps Now inserts into Series 1, Series 2, but that's it. Like there's no real promotion behind it, or there's no real calling it out behind it. Mike's got a great idea about throwing living set advertisement cards into Heritage, right? Or Alan Ginter. That's a fantastic idea. I don't know why they're not doing that.
Archives, make Archives a better product.
Yeah.
Cross promote.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let me ask you this: are you not going to buy a Topps Now card today if the Blue Jays did something cool last night?
I may buy. It depends on the player. It depends on the moment, right? Like I'm a Judge fan, so I'll buy all the.
You're going to buy it, right? I mean, not necessarily you or I, but you're going to buy it, and they know that. Why would you spend money on advertising when you have an exclusive license within an oligopoly? Screw that. I'm not spending any money on advertising. I'm not putting anybody on social media because that's a sunk cost. You're going to buy from us because you're addicted to this hobby. Yeah. This is your cocaine. This is your heroin. And we know that. When's the last time a movie theater had an advertisement? Oh, come down to your local, UA and Regal. No, you're coming because you want to go see the latest Marvel movie. Yeah. And that's the one closest to your house. Period. End of discussion. They don't have to come over to the Regal instead of, United Artists. They don't have to, and they know that because we keep coming back because we're lemmings. We don't demand it with our wallets because if Ben's money goes away, cool. There'll be 2 more people that take my place. And hell, I don't even buy directly through Topps. It's indirectly through, a third party. So they're not even. Do they really care if I stop? Hey, I'm out of the hobby right now. Okay.
Yeah, they don't. They know. Well, especially now, they know there's more coming, right? They know
they're not in a conference room.
Yeah.
They're not in a conference room. Oh my God, we lost Ben. What are we gonna do?
Although I will say, if they lose a platinum, then they've got problems, right? And and I've gotten to know quite a few of the platinums because the Topps Now community is fairly small, and over the last couple of years, I've heard some of those platinum guys question whether or not they should continue to be buying Topps Now cards.
The problem with Topps Now is Topps Now. It's like obviously when baseball's actually happening, it's every day, numerous cards. It's just a lot to keep track of.
They hit 1,000 cards last year. 1,000 cards. It's crazy.
That's just to me, it's just too much. And the problem why Topps, maybe their customer service or their online presence not good. It's just they got so much going on at one time. I think they're just got their hands full with that. They're not worried about they just know everything's selling. Whatever they put out there, yeah, sure. Some things sell better than others, but everything they put out there sells. They're not necessarily losing any money on any particular one product, especially this year.
Look at Project 2020. They are almost 100 cards behind being printed and shipped out. Mm-hmm. Almost 100 cards. Now, granted, they're
catching up. They're catching up
slowly. What I think I saw like 94, 95 was printed, or 96 or something like that. But almost 100 cards. Okay, granted, they had no idea that they were going to see this kind of response. But even, they got to ramp up. Right. And they're starting to lose people too, right?
They will once I was looking at this last night because I bought all my stuff from Twins Jake, who's another platinum member, as you mentioned.
Great guy.
He's already out of living. I don't think he's doing now anymore.
No, he is. He's still doing now.
Okay. So Project 2020 has been consuming his time. And I'm like 13 cards deep. I'm only buying McGuire and Henderson. And he's like, I'm going to send you 3 cards this week. He goes, because that's all I have. Cards 60, 71, and 81. Yeah, and the next McGuire and Henderson don't happen until the 90s, which he's probably just now getting in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you look at the print run check on the checklist, another 1-2 weeks is what it's going to take to get all those big, nasty looking print run numbers out of the way, where supplies and just the processing thereof. Once we get back to the cards that are 4,000, 8,000. I think this is going to get a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start receiving our orders a lot faster.
Well, I don't know if you saw the tweet out or the comment from Blake Jameson. He, in one of his conversations with Tops this past week, he point blank asked them, "Why are you guys so far behind?" It was because of their cases.
Yeah.
And so they were getting like an order of 500,000 of the cases in this week to be able to. So it sounds like the cards are printed. They just can't get them out because they don't have the cases. Which I'm not surprised, right?
No, I mean, first off, if you think about that, if you bought 1 million of these and you try to extrapolate it, okay, we're going to need 1 million of these, and you bought those back in March or February, and then all of a sudden that day that Shore and the Shore Griffey and the Gwen came out and you sold 165,000, that is
10%, 20%
of your original nest egg, and that doesn't include all the ones that had come before. Yeah. And this whole thing was a mess. And I don't think they were properly, it's not like you don't have archive signatures and clearly authentic and other ways to get rid of those one touches moving forward. They should have bought 5-10 million of these, stuck them in the warehouse and said, hey, we just like us buying toilet paper, right? Yeah. Go buy a bunch of toilet paper. It doesn't go bad. Stick it in your garage. You're set for a year. Yeah, it kind of hurts now because you got to pay for it right now. You got to rip that Band-Aid off, but I don't have to buy toilet paper again until next summer. Same thing, Tops. Buy 10 million of these suckers, stick them in the warehouse, and say, if Project 2020 does not hit its mark, cool. Clearly authentic, archive signature. Now I think there's like 3 different archive signature releases. You'll have plenty of uses for these.
Well,
now, some of the lead.
Yeah, they're the thicker ones. Though,
I think that's a little bit of a fair or unfair, assertion to make that they should have bought 5 million of these in advance. I mean, no one knew that Ultra Pro was going to shut down production because they were going to shift production to producing PPEs, during the midst of COVID. Most companies are going to try to do just in time as much as possible for things like this. And if you're normally able to get a steady flow of several 100,000 a week delivered, that's what you're going to go into this product doing. When they were starting this and planning this, and when they would have had to place that 5 or 10 million Mag Touch order, there was no thought that all these supply chain issues were going to be in there. And so it doesn't surprise me that that's something that we've encountered when you've had 1.75 million of these sold so far, and they weren't able to have normal supply chain operations for most of 2020. And so, it'd be great if we didn't have this backlog, but it's great that they're now able to start to get hundreds of thousands of these at this point, and are going to be able to start working through it.
Hopefully.
So what do they do with the ones, because we've seen all the horror stories of hair and, we saw an insert in a one mark to share from archives, the insert out, right? We've seen all kind of horror stories with Project 2020, cards upside down. There's the upside down Jeter. My thought is this is, okay, you're now getting cards being sent to addresses that did not order them. So where do these cards come from? Because if a print run is 5,000 and you sent me one that I didn't order, does that mean it's 5,001? Does that mean it's still 5,000, but you didn't get yours? Because you're going to have to fulfill that order to the person you didn't send it to. My thought is Tops is probably getting some returns because of this delayed wait time. So those are the ones that are going out as replacements. But what happens when they're all caught up and there are no more returns? I've got 200 of, such and such player of such and such artist. Those have to be destroyed, right?
Well, okay. So in a similar vein, the Game Within the Game series, they just started about the same time, right? February, March. They're doing 1 card a month. The Lewis Robert, which was from about a month or 2 ago, I guess. The original artwork on the website didn't have the rookie card logo. They updated it and they put the rookie card logo out. They printed all of them without the rookie card logo. Guess what they did last week? They sent out new orders with the rookie card order. So now you've got 2 cards. But it's the same print run.
Yeah, that's questionable because I know that going back to Twins Jake, it took him about a year to get me the Manny Machado Dodgers card because he kept sending them back due to quality control issues because of the black border and it had specs. And in his thought process is, this is my reputation. I'm going to assume everybody is going to grade every card. or at the very least, it needs to be gradable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to send out a subpar product. Okay. Well, if he sends back 500 Machados and they give him 500 back and he does it again and again, now there's 1,500 of these that came back again, have to be destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Do we put faith in that? My dad the other day, because he collects Topps Star Wars living, he's like, how do we know that there's only X? They told us there's X, but that's proprietary information. You know, you literally can manipulate the market by having a false sense of what this print run is. How do we know there's not 100,000 Faucis? You know, we don't know, but you're buying as a not an ignorant consumer, but a naive one. It's just not our privileged information.
Yeah,
you're buying under the assumption that there's X amount, and you're paying a fair market worth at that time. Today, if John's going to buy a Fauci today, he's spending X under the impression that there's only so many available. But if a batch gets, Mike had a situation where he got some stuff lost in the mail, right? Or that truck fire, that's not his fault, but things happen, right? It's like, do you print more of these? Are you printing, and then there's something that Ryan Cracknell said a long time ago about the Jordans that were inserted into the Hanes, where there was only 10 autos, and he said one has to be held back for replacement. Yeah. And I'm like, I forget what he called it. But wait a minute. If you're holding one back, then the print run's only 9, right? Well, no, the print run's 10. Well, you didn't pack out 10, and 10 are not available to consumers. I could buy truckloads of Hanes, and I can only at most get 9, right? That's what you're telling me. Then the print run is 9. So again, how many of these are they holding back? How many are they overprinting? We don't know.
Well, I know for sure with the Topps Now autos, they're not serial numbering them, I believe, until they are signed. So even if they have a 99 card, let's say, they're probably printing 105 and keeping 6 back for damage. I've heard them. Well, and I've seen pictures of players signing cards, and you can count how many they have laid out, and it's more than what is stated, right? Like let's say it's out of 10. Well, they've got 12 sitting there because they've got 2 just in case that those first 10 get damaged.
I think a lot of times these companies will print more than the print run for exchanges, and as we all said, if once that kind of, whether it's 1 or 2 years that timeline's passed, they are supposed to get destroyed. Now whether they do or they sneak out a back door, that's we could do a whole show on that. And James, hey, thank you. Great questions, man. Great discussion.
Yes,
thanks for coming on.
Good call.
We're gonna bring a regular guy in. Rich Klein, where'd you go?
Hey, I'm still here. How are you, John?
Hey, I got a question for you, Rich. Ken brings up a great point, about Topps. Let's be real. I've been doing this a long time. Topps has always sort of had a reputation, the new Topps, if you will, not the original Topps, but the new Topps, for having a lot of corporate muckety-mucks rather than someone that has their finger on the hobby or the sports world, that they just kind of got sort of bean counters who are just looking to fill the coffers up. And I think that's what hurts their online presence, because if you don't really know cards and if you don't really know sports, you can't get in the mosh pit and bang with everybody because you're going to be exposed. And so I think that's the reason Topps is not more online, interacting with the hobbyists, because I don't know if they can't. And when they lose someone like Suze who could, and they lose some of those people that have those assets and attributes, and now you don't have them, and you have just corporate people who know what a home run is, but they don't know the hobby. Maybe like even Panini's staff does. They don't want to get in there. They don't want to get in there on the ground level and mix it up with the hobby. And so I you've been doing this a long time. I'm sure you've heard the same.
First, let me just say something. Suze was uniquely qualified to do her job. She had newspaper experience. She had experience working at Beckett. She's a lifelong collector. She married a collector. In fact, that was almost their opening line, is they started talking about her favorites. Oh, I hear you're a collector. You know, they're working at the same newspaper. She understood all the media involved. Emily is very good. Emily doesn't have quite the same background, so I don't want to slight Emily in any way. She doesn't have the 10 years extra experience that Suze has. So let's lay off Emily a little on this. Also, Emily has to deal with things we didn't have to deal with. You know, the one time I like to say I agreed with Ben on something card related.
Okay,
we were both totally incorrect. I won't say the word wrong. We both assumed that when the pandemic began, nobody would be buying cards because everybody would have to use money for rice and beans for their dinner.
Sure.
And as it turned out, between the $600 a week for extra unemployment for those that were able to navigate the system, for the $2,400 stimulus checks if you were still working, we all got extra money. And then you're dealing with companies, and I'll say including ComC, where you had to reduce the number of people in the office by a lot.
Sure.
You know, and so I guarantee you they had to reduce the people in Tops by a lot. They had to reduce how could they process things, but they still have to generate income, so they're still taking orders. Talk about perfect storms.
Oh, and, it's been nasty.
And then I think Mike and I, was it last week, we named 10, and I'm going to put them under the same umbrella, even though you do separate them. Direct-to-consumer products, Tops does, and I'm sure we're missing some. We did the 582 Montgomery Club. We did Tops Now, Tops Project 2020, the Bowman Sapphire. I mean, there are so many products out there.
Yeah.
That you're doing so much, you can't keep up with it. And I'm going to throw an aside in on top of this. Sounds like a monologue. But in 1993, I'm in a retail store and I buy this pack of Upper Deck cards. And it has the stamp on the Marlins cards, the first year Marlins cards, sort of what Tops did with the Rangers this year. That was a retail only thing. The hobby people at Upper Deck didn't know what cards were going into the retail packs. It's very possible what Emily is doing, who is the social media person at Tops, she's not informed on everything Tops does.
Sure.
She should be. But if she's not, you can't talk about things you don't know about. So let's cut her some slack on this.
Then they need to move her to another department, because I think it's a missed opportunity.
Or they need to make sure she gets better informed.
Here's my thing, Rich.
She's the White House press secretary of Tops, right? She's the public voice. She's the public face.
And the people who are doing all the retail need to make sure she's in every loop.
Absolutely. So
let's not blame Emily when it might be an institutional, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't, it might be an institutional thing within Tops. So
I think there's some truth to that. I think there's some of the communication, it maybe shouldn't be such a challenge in this environment, but I think there's probably some legitimacy to that. I was watching an interview that she did last night on Hobbypalooza, and it just kind of goes to show, I think, maybe some of the breakdown in communication across lines is she was asked, how is the shortened baseball season and the shutdown going to impact Tops Update? We know that product's coming out, but how is that going to impact the checklist? And to summarize her statement, this isn't an exact quote, but to summarize her statement is, it won't impact it very much. We plan for these products so far out in advance that it'll pretty much have the same type of content that it's always had, which we all know is there's no way that that's true for Tops Update, because half of that set is made up of all-star game events, and there's no all-star game. Half of it, the other half is made up of mid-season call-ups and mid-season trades, also, which very little is going to have happened. So whatever that checklist is going to be, I would have a hard time imagining that it is not going to be impacted at all by COVID. And I don't necessarily think that's her fault. But again, there's a breakdown in communication somewhere where she can't give a canned answer for everything when we know that there are extenuating circumstances that are impacting release dates and what types of cards can be put in the checklist.
This isn't national security here, right? This isn't like the White House press secretary.
if you ask anybody from Panini about their products, and granted this year is a different thing, most products have what we'll call an 11-month shelf line from when you outline it to when you bring it to fruition. And I think that's part of what she was saying last night. I did not watch the interview, but that's part of the average product in an average year has an 11-month, shelf. I'll call it shelf life, but
or cyclical
gestation period. We'll call it.
And a couple of things to follow up on my original statement, Rich. I'm not so much blaming an Emily Class. I mean, she's, if you're offered a job and the money's right, I don't blame anyone for accepting the position. I mean, who wouldn't, very few people would probably turn down a job from Topps. That's not my problem isn't so much on the people. But like I just read someone comment, I think it was Ben, that said, be particular in who you hire. Ken's point as well. And speaking of Emily, I don't want to give her a complete free pass. I don't know her, but if you're kind of the face and voice of that company, get in there and find out what's going on. If you got to ask questions, I'm an orientation facilitator at a major, the number one trucking company in the nation. Any new rules, I know about it because I got to tell everyone in my class and all these new drivers coming in everything they need to know. I make it a point to send emails. Hey, I'm hearing this. What is going on? Is this an effect? Is it an effect this month? Is it an effect? Go in there and do your job. Find out what you need to know. I understand if maybe you don't know everything. I mean, that's impossible. But
I actually got to spend a few minutes with her during the million card break. I know that sounds like centuries ago, but it happened to be fortuitously at the AT&T Stadium, and she was the hostess for the event. And she's very sharp, but she's very good. She's not Suze. Somebody pointed out in the chat. The problem is she is not Suze. She doesn't have the experience of all the background Suze has. Suze literally came to the job. That was a perfect job for Suze if it wasn't for the commute. Her job, which is also a great job for her now, is 10 minutes from her home when she goes to the office. That's a lot different than taking the train all the way downtown to New York City. So there's a lot to be said for.
Yeah, and I don't think, Rich, listen, everyone is an individual person, and we're not, no one's cloned. We're not expecting her to be Suze, but I think Mike's point is she kind of goes on the air and then says sort of a generic kind of a statement that you can poke a million holes in.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but
hey, that's your problem.
So somebody needs to get a pen and paper because I'm about to say something that might be the first time ever. I agree with Rich. He had made a point about it being an institutional issue. She's an employee, just like Susie was, with supervisors, and it goes up the rung. It's somewhere there's a disconnect where they just don't care. And it's a ripple down effect that prohibits her from doing her job to our liking. Because if I was her, if I was in that role, or if I was the CEO and I said, here's your role, regardless of who holds it, you have to have customer interaction. Watch all of these podcasts, whether they're ours or the other ones that are available. Find out what the voice of the collector is and bring that to us. Go find it, because we need to know what the pulse of the collector, not just shit out all these products on us over and over and over again, recycle them year after year after year and beating a dead horse, because that's the only way check this out, our revenues are going to increase. The interest is going to increase. We're going to not only be able to bring new collectors in, but customer acquisition cost is one of the hardest things for a company. But you know what is not? Customer retention. Once you have them, keep them. And you can keep them by offering them new things and listening to what they have to say. And the amount of money you save with customer retention versus getting new customers is completely different. It's night and day on a bottom line of a company. But the bottom line is, again, they're hold an exclusive license in an oligopoly that only really has a three-headed monster at the top. I mean, you can count Leaf and Onyx as a one-off, but where is their incentive? They don't have one because we blindly go buy the stuff. If there was a Topps Now Ace card from last night, I'm buying it as much as I might go on Twitter. or a hobby hotline or about the cards and bitch about it. I'm still buying it. And they got me hook, line, and sinker. And if they lose me, they don't care because somebody else will take my place. They're not worried about my $5 or my $5,000 a year, whatever I spend on the hobby. It's not a mark or knock off their bottom line. They're not going to lose that revenue and again cry over the conference table. But I do think that direction starts at the top, and they should really focus on marketing and the financial side of things because it's a ripple down effect to the consumer. Because you are going to lose a lot of people due to hobby fatigue, or I'm out because it's just too damn expensive, or there's just too much. And
we're up against the clock. We're going to bring in another regular, add him to the stream. He's been patiently waiting. I don't want to close the door on him. Brad Bethune, Texas card dude. I know you have 3 cents to put in, not 2 cents. So
I'll give you the 1 cent. Honestly, guys, give her a break. And Uncle Rich, don't have a heart attack, okay? Because I'm usually the one that's the hardest on people. But give her a break. I've been in the hobby recently, again, for maximum of 3 months. I was out of the hobby for 2 decades, maybe 3. The amount of knowledge that I'm trying to absorb in this amount of time is overwhelming. And I'm almost 50, and I'm trying to absorb this information very, very quickly. We don't know what training she had, if any. We don't know what background she had, if any. We don't know what support she's getting, if any. Yes, the canned answer was wrong. I agree with you. But you're on stage. You're live. You've got hundreds of... So she made a mistake. Okay, she's human. But we don't know what backing she has. So
right.
Give her just a little bit, but just give her a little, because you don't know what restrictions they put on her.
So can we all preface this and agree that this is not an Emily bashing hour? It really isn't.
It's not. It's not.
Correct.
Emily is a placeholder. We're talking about that position in the abstract.
Yes.
She currently holds it. She's not going to have that job forever, I'm sure. She gets promoted with Tops or moves on in her career, just like Susie did. This is not, let's pin her up against the wall and throw darts at her. So she's out there listening, or somebody with Tops is listening and catches this. It's not, against Emily. It's just against that social media manager, and that role in its entirety is being underutilized as far as the collectors are concerned. So having said that, we can continue. I just don't want it to come across in case somebody out there says,
and to piggyback off that, Ben, I mean, that's her, whoever her higher up, her next in line, if she's going, you got to know that update question is probably the number one question coming, right? Or right there, you got to say, Emily, you're going to get this update question. Here's what we want to get out there. Here's our company answer to that. And so
just like,
you're right. I'm not picking on Emily. But so much as maybe, and I don't know what she does. I've never met her. Maybe she knows to the grindstone and trying her best, whatever that might be. But it's piggybacking off what Ben said. I think it's whoever's above her. Said you got to know if you know her itinerary. Hey, you're going online to talk to collectors. You're going to get this update question. Here's how we need to address it. And somebody dropped, either someone didn't properly inform her, or if they did, it didn't get relayed on her end, and only they know ultimately for sure.
We don't know.
And this is a unique job for her, because the bottom line is all of us could go away tomorrow, and that's that, right? This is a hobby. Without getting into the whole investment thing, this is a hobby. We do this because we're passionate, because we love collecting. We love enjoying our hobby with other people, the 5 of us, right? We're all friends, and we enjoy one another's company and knowledge. But at the end of the day, it's not like she's representing a company where it's a necessity, a commodity for the company. It's just a hobby. It's all hocus pocus. And so, a lot of what she gets, or Susie before her, or whoever, comes after Emily, you're getting crapped on because we're passionate and we're That's why we have these podcasts and these blogs, to write about what we love and what we hate. And negativity always rules the day at the end of the day, right? It's easier to bitch than it is to say something nice. Go check out your favorite restaurant on Yelp and you'll see all the negative remarks, because it's easier for us to go on there and complain than it is to say, you know what, I had a great experience. John and Mike and Rich and Brad and I all went out to lunch and we had a great time and the waitress was great. You're not leaving that 9 times out of 10 on Yelp, right? But sure enough, if we didn't get our drinks for 45 minutes, we're going to go on there and bitch, and again, Emily's probably doing the best that she can with the resources allocated to her. I don't think she's been giving, this is my opinion, everything that she can to succeed. I don't know that Susie was either. I think that Susie was just a very unique individual that could overcome some of those issues and probably put her foot down. And again, we don't know Emily personally, but she is in a very precarious position where you're going to get crapped on more often than not. And I think that's, like Rich said, institutional, starts at the top. She's the voice. She's this press secretary for the White House, so to speak, to use an analogy. She gets that message out, and that message only comes from her superiors, whether it's fully informed or not. It should be, and they should be communicating that. If they're not, I'm not in their conference room, so I don't know what they do and don't tell her.
Yeah, the only point that I was trying to make was that as just the information out there is completely overwhelming. I mean, Mike, I don't know how you bought that collection and sorted and went through and did it, because I bought a small one. It's insane. It's insane. So just going back and going I was doing 1998 or 1988 Donruss last night, and just trying to learn about the set. That took 2 hours to do that. 2 hours to regain that knowledge. So to do all of that back experience, just think about going all the way back to someone who's got like Rich, who's got like 40s and 30s and 20s and all of that knowledge and all that history. You put someone like that position and Rich in the same room, there's going to be stuff that they just. So that's all I was trying to say.
Can I switch topics for a second?
Please.
Okay. How many of y'all know Chris Carlin?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know who he is. I've never met him.
Yeah.
Chris posted on Facebook, and I don't
Rich.
but if you follow him on Facebook, or if you see on Facebook, one of his family members came down, and I don't want to give the details, with a very serious illness. So please check his Facebook page and please look at what he posted. It's very somber, and we're talking about baseball cards. He's
Right.
talking about real life.
Now,
We always have to remember the difference.
Chris is with Upper Deck. What's his role there, Rich?
I know he's way up there. He's like,
He's director of operations.
yeah,
Okay.
so he's way up.
We just want to throw that out there for anybody that doesn't know Chris Carlin by name. I saw that same video this morning, and it was one of those like, well, again, we hate to use that it puts things in perspective, because I think that's often overused, but it
that
does.
truly does.
At the end of the day, here we are, 5 guys, discussing trading cards, which is not life or death, and other people out there, but that's also what's nice about the Hobby Hotline and podcasts and blogs and card shows, where we said earlier, we don't need these, we want these. It is a distraction. It is something that is cathartic, lowers our blood pressure, allows us to talk to friends about something that isn't our spouses and our children and our jobs and our yards and our bills. It's something where we can enjoy, and hopefully we can be more positive than not. I'm working extremely hard on trying to be more positive in life. And then Brad comes along as a Rangers fan and pulls me right back in, and but you son of a gun. But I think if you're out there, if you're the praying type, just hey, maybe say a little silent prayer for Chris and his family, because he's one of us. He's a collector. He's a hobbyist. He's one of us, and we don't want to see anybody go through anything difficult. So.
And I just had, I just had a pet family member die, and Chris was very instrumental. He contacted me, and we had a great discussion, and obviously Upper Deck and him did a great thing with that poster of myself and my dog. And so here it is, he's in very difficult situation. And like Ben said, whether you're a person of faith or not, a little prayer, not going to hurt you. Say it. There's really he's not many finer guys in the hobby than Chris Carlin. He's been doing what he's been doing a long, long time.
By the way, one of the things I wrote in my column, and sometimes I write correctly and sometimes I write things that turn out to be incorrect. But one thing I wrote on the one when I showed Mr. Newman's picture, and I will show him the proper respect by calling him Mr. Newman.
Well, listen, I'm old, so if that makes it official,
yeah,
then that's fine.
The collecting doesn't seem to be important, but in today's world, it's actually more important than ever.
Exactly.
And talks like this are more important because it's a distraction when you keep, when you see the news and there's nothing good on the news at all. But going and even in my office, just processing cards and taking them out of sheets like this.
If he gets into those boxes, this show's going to run another hour.
We'll just leave him here to his own device.
Even stuff like that's going to eventually help people one way or the other. There's something very positive about that.
When you go on Twitter and you see somebody interviewing their dog, I mean, that's just pure silliness right there. That's stuff that you enjoy.
And Mike, I got to ask,
how's better at words than I am. That's why I do that. So,
Mike, how's your million card collection doing?
It's going pretty good so far. I think I've made it through about 50 to 100,000 cards over the last week and a half since I kind of took position, and it's ranged anywhere from a 5-row box going straight into the bulk Facebook pile to a basketball box today where found a few Kobe rookies and some Fleer Ultra basketball inserts that are worth a couple $100. So it's all over the board, as you would expect with a big collection of unsorted cards. And so, yeah, it's just getting started.
I think you're the right man for that because you have the patience to go through that and figure out, you have your systems. And I think there's something to be said for people who have systems. That's one of the reasons Rob Virus became so successful, is that he and his dad and now his son have a system.
Nice.
And Rich calls him Mr. Newman. I just yell at him like, hey.
Nice.
It's better than what my wife calls me, so I'll take it.
As long as she calls you on time for dinner, it's probably fine.
I don't I don't miss dinners, guys. No dinner.
I'm right there with you, brother. Yeah.
I got home from softball last night at 10:30, and I ate dinner. It was 10:30. I'm not missing dinner. Well, we're up against it. We're at an hour and 8 minutes. Not that that's a bad thing. Great conversation. And again, Emily, if Emily either, I doubt she's watching, you never know, or she hears this after the fact. I don't think anyone is singling her out. It's just, maybe someone didn't give her the information she needed, and she's doing probably the best she can. And it's tough, and like Brad said, it's a lot to consume. But the only thing I'll say to contradict Brad a little bit, she doesn't have to learn so much the whole hobby. She's got to learn what's going on at Tops. That's who she works with. So, and any other comments before we wrap it up?
I just say check out Hobby Palooza. John and I are going to be part of a hobby podcasting panel Sunday evening, and so just a little plug for the Hobby Palooza where John and I are going to be a part of that, and maybe Drew as well is going to be a part of that. I'm not sure if it was able to confirm or not. So there's a lot of hobby content going on this weekend between the virtual and the Hobby Palooza. So have at it. There's all that you can handle.
I'm going to listen to some old radio air checks. I have enough of the hobby during the week.
Well, I see where your allegiances lie, Rich. All right, that's all right. You're off the Christmas card list.
Okay, sounds good.
So, all right, folks. Thanks for listening. For Brad, for Rich, for Ben from About the Cards, the Mike Sommer from the Wax Pack Hero. We'll be back, like Mike just said. We're back on, I guess, tomorrow, and plenty of content out there. Check out in lieu of the national not happening. You got that virtual and Hobby Palooza. Definitely hobby content overload if you so choose. So with that being said, everyone have a great rest of the weekend. Stay safe. Be well. We'll see you next time.
Perfect.